Alright, so today we're going to be talking about the Laramie Project, which was written by Moises Kaufman, as well as with the members of the Tectonic Theater Project, and it was published in 2001. So to go with the basic plot, the plot centers around the town of Laramie, Wyoming, and it's in the year of 1998. The University of Wyoming is also in this town, so just to kind of give you a general sense of it. As far as the historical significance goes, the text resides in the fact that Matthew Shepard's case was one of the first significant legal cases that dealt with gay hate crimes in this country and kind of brought a lot of importance to that. Matthew Shepard is, we'll learn a little bit more about him in just a few seconds. So, to move in with a few of the main characters, and I'm just going to touch briefly on these as of now, but as I go along with the plot summary, you'll learn a little bit more about them. So, as I just said, Matthew Shepard is he's not really one of the main characters, but he's one of the main focuses of the play, as he was the victim of the hate crime that occurred. Matt is an openly gay male who attended the University of Wyoming in Laramie. So, he comes from a very prosperous background. His parents are fairly rich, so he's he's well off, so kind of a little bit of a background on him, and again, we'll learn a little bit more later. And then there were two perpetrators who committed the hate crime, and one of them was Aaron McKinney. He was 21 years old, and then there was also Russell Henderson, who is 19 years old, and again, we will learn more about them later. And then another major character to kind of focus on, who I thought was important, is Reggie Flutie, and she was the policewoman who responded to the 911 call that was put through by Aaron Kreefels, who was the man who found Matthew Shepard when he was tied up on the fence. So that's just a general kind of go at the main characters. I guess another one of the main characters you could really say would be the members of the Tectonic Theater Project. Really, the plot centers around the members of this project and their time spent researching the hate crime and the death of the college-age gay student Matthew Shepard. And the group looks to take the information and interviews that they have compiled to create a sort of play on the incident, which incidentally is the form of Kaufman's The Laramie Project. So basically, it's based on a true story, is this play, and they went and did all this research on this incident that occurred, and they're kind of doing a lot of interviews and a lot of things to make this play about this incident. So the plot itself is a bit difficult to describe in detail because of the form of the play. It's not necessarily linear. It does not follow the occurrences and actions that led up to the crime and ultimately death of Matthew. So, to go ahead and in short, Matthew was spending the night at a local bar and was seemingly minding his own business. At some point, the perpetrators, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson, enter the bar and proceed to have a few drinks. They end up planning to rob Matthew and offer him a ride home. It's not made entirely clear whether Matthew made a pass on Aaron or not, but regardless of that case, Matthew was beaten in the car and then taken out and tied up to a fence where he was tortured and beaten even more. And kind of I'll be interlacing textual kind of quotes throughout, but the judge at one point said defendants left the victim begging for his life. Just to kind of paint a little mental picture for you there. So Matt was left outside for 18 hours before Aaron Kreefels found him on the fence. Once again, Reggie Flutie answered the 911 call and did as much as possible. She even had an AIDS scare because of contact with Matt's blood. And then the rest of the play kind of goes over various medical updates and interviews with various members of the community. McKinney and Henderson are brought into custody fairly quickly, and Henderson eventually pleads guilty and gets 2 counts of life in prison. McKinney, however, pleads not guilty, saying that the crime was committed due to gay panic. So basically, because Matt supposedly made a move on him that made him make this crime, and that was kind of the defense's take on it. But he's considered for the death penalty, but Matthew's father decides to give the boy life in prison as he feels that it will provide more for the meaning of Matt and his memory. So I'm going to read out a little quote here. Every time you wake up in your prison cell, remember that you had the opportunity and the ability to stop your actions that night. You robbed me of something very precious, and I will never forgive you for that. Mr. McKinney, I give you life in the memory of one who no longer lives. May you have a long life, and may you thank Matthew every day for it. And again, that was Matthew's dad talking. So that kind of just wraps up both of the perpetrator stories. They're both going to get life in prison and basically spend the rest of their life there. The play ends by wrapping up various ends of certain characters' stories. One that's particularly moving and memorable for me, at least, is the transformation of Jedediah, who was a younger student that we saw interviewed at the start of the play. So I'm going to read another little quote here from Jedediah. I don't know. It's weird. It's so weird, man. I just feel bad just for all the stuff I told you, for the person I used to be. That's why I want to hear those interviews from last year when I said all that stuff. I don't know. I just can't believe I ever said that stuff about homosexuals, you know? How did I ever let that stuff make me think that you were different from me? So I feel that with that, we kind of end the play on a sense of hope, knowing that perceptions and opinions can indeed change. So apart from that general plotline, the numerous interviews with members of the community tell a lot about the issues that exist in Laramie, as well as the large strides that need to still be taken. There's a lot of talk about religion in the play, and there's a large role that it plays. And numerous ministers and clergymen were interviewed. It creates an interesting dynamic throughout as we see certain individuals that back Matthew and certain ones that condemn him and place fault on his homosexuality. Perhaps the most shocking quote was from a Baptist minister in talking. He said, "Now as for the victim, I know that lifestyle is legal, but I will tell you one thing. I hope that Matthew Shepard, as he was tied to that fence, that he had time to reflect on a moment when someone had spoken the word of the Lord to him, and that before he slipped into a coma, he had a chance to reflect on his lifestyle." So, as if Matt had something to feel bad about, for he was the victim in this case, but apparently fault was being placed on him. Really, there's a large distinction in Laramie between those who fully support man and his sexuality, and there are those who say that the fault is half his and compare gays to animals. So as said before, Laramie has made a lot of strides towards general acceptance, but still has much further to go. As far as some recommendations for teaching this novel, or play, rather, I have kind of mixed feelings on that. It would definitely depend, I think, on, as it would with any text, on the class itself. The form is incredibly interesting. I think that idea of a research project and doing interviews would be something that it could be beneficial to do in the classroom, but at the same time it's fairly gruesome and horrific with a lot of bigotry and discrimination, so I think that a mature classroom would be a must. But it's definitely something that needs to be talked about, it needs to be heard, and as it's still definitely a problem in today's community. So that's a general overview of the Laramie Project, and thank you for listening.